Okay, so we're live. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents, and a few minutes. Started off a few seconds late, or a few minutes late, but lo and behold, we have the great Todd Vandenberg in the building today. Todd, how you doing?
I'm doing well, but I am going to call your judgment into question, sir.
Oh man, it's been a while, Todd, and I will tell you,
it's been a week.
Been a
on this show, it's been quite a while.
On this show, it's been a while. Let's see. I'm trying to find the exact format for. Okay, I think we're going to go with this one.
Love it.
And okay, so we're here. Folks, ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. You'll find the latest and greatest in blogs, wikis. If you want to follow the Twitter feed and Facebook feed and also YouTube, then you would definitely go to latenightparents.com. But if you really want a great follow, you'll go to, on Twitter, The Unreal Todd.
Oh my God, I'll have to start tweeting again. Okay, I will.
Yes. So we're streaming live right now on YouTube and on Periscope. So I've got my New York Yankees because after yesterday's game with Edwin Diaz blowing it yet again, you know, maybe this might be a COVID season, a different season, but it's the same Edwin Diaz.
I was going to say it's a long season, but it isn't.
It isn't. It's a very short season.
It's basically it's August.
It really is. Todd, there's so much. It's been such a long time talking with you on this show. I want to thank you and Lee and Rob again for inviting me to Nikki X Happy Hour podcast in a way to show how much I appreciate it. Planning to torture all three of you guys and have you as three separate guests on the show.
because all three of us would destroy it and bring it down to the level of Nikki X. So very smart planning. Very smart planning on your part.
Oh my goodness. So first and foremost, we'll get into, I know John Lewis's processional is going on right now. We have it up on the screen. Very, very powerful, iconic civil rights figure that we have lost. But the struggle continues. The struggle goes on. And we can only hope that today's activists follow in his footsteps.
I certainly hope so. And protests in Portland are getting a little bit out of hand. And I hate to see that because when a few people riot, and I understand why people are rioting, because that tends to be, to me, that would be a natural response to uniformed thugs with no name badges, with no insignia, no names whatsoever, pulling random people off the street to be detained. So I understand the response, but we have to be better than that. Because when a few people riot, like, I don't know, half of 1% of protests start rioting, then certain people love to paint all protesters as terrorists. And that helps justify the actions of turning DHS into their own private Gestapo.
Correct.
I was going to tweet this and I didn't get around to it, and I probably should, but you can't spell Gestapo without the letters GOP.
Yes.
And unfortunately, they're living up to that. And that's not how the party used to be. But they are just completely fallen sway under this mindless buffoon who passes a cognitive test that I believe Coco the gorilla passed the test. And I'm sure Coco is far more intelligent than our current president. I mean, he was able to identify the difference between an elephant and a snake, and he thinks that makes him a genius.
It's true. That is true.
And he's been bragging. He took this test in 2017, and he's still bragging about it.
Still talking about it. Talking about it. I'm like, come on. And there's such hesitation where he would say, from camera, woman, this, that, whatever. I mean, I'm sitting here like, are we really watching this? Like, is he punking us right now?
The most telling part of that interview with Chris Wallace, and I'm glad Chris Wallace finally decided to be his father's son instead of just a Fox shill, was Trump was taught. He asked him about changing the names of bases, military bases named after Confederate generals. And he starts this long thing about how this would be a disservice to all the men and women who've gone through those bases. We fought 2 beautiful world wars. He literally said beautiful world wars. He's absolutely a pathological freak show. How on earth could you term a world war a beautiful thing?
I don't know.
But everything has to be wonderful. He has to build everything up that he mentions because he can't stand the thought that he might be anything less than perfect. And of course, he's like about the most imperfect creature since Jesus. I don't know. A slime mold would do a better freaking job as president than this guy. I mean, he is unbelievably terrible.
Bad.
Bad. November 4th, 2016, we all started our bingo board that, what's going to happen. It's like, I don't think anybody had 125,000 dead from a pandemic. I mean, most of us had nuclear war, things like that. But bring it up and he'll take 3 swings and take a seat.
I will lead into the first item that's not on our agenda. Todd, you live in Florida. It is the epicenter of the world because I lived what was previously the epicenter,
Yes.
And when you start looking at the numbers and use like 400,000 plus infections, I mean, I just hope and pray that Florida doesn't get to the point where you have the level of deaths that were in New York.
Right. So far, the death toll is not as bad as it could be. But by the end of the week, we'll pass New York in cases. California's actually passed New York already, amazingly.
Yeah, California and Florida yesterday officially passed New York.
Oh, did? Okay. Well, yay. Fun. The data I'm showing there says they're still behind. But
okay.
No, it depends on which data set you're looking at.
Well, it depends on whether or not CNN sensationalizes it.
you and your Fox and Friends background, you always got to be digging CNN. What I'm looking at, this is pulled from Worldometer, which pulls it from Johns Hopkins, Florida. 423,855, which is terrible. And of course, per million, not very great. It's also 19,000 per million, which is almost double California's rate.
Right.
My county, and here's the fun part. I live in Palm Beach County, one of the more populous counties in Florida. We have 29,000. By the end of today, we'll probably have 30,000 cases, 29,707 in our county alone.
Mm-hmm.
If I can remind our listeners, viewers, South Korea reported their first case the same day the United States did. They have 14,000 cases.
Right.
The county I live in has twice as many cases as South Korea.
Yes.
The population of South Korea is 51 million.
Todd, and I hate to ask this question, but I have to because I was having a conversation with a friend earlier this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why is it so important, Todd, for us to have our bars open?
To not think about what's going on? I have no idea why it is so important. Why
it's just, for the life of me, I just don't understand it. It bothers me when they talk about death and then they talk about, well, hey, we're making sure we're going to have our bars open. I'm like,
a meme that's making the rounds. Our governor's name is Ron DeSantis, and a lot of memes are up his Ron death sentence because totally what he's doing. Yes. He is so rooted up the behind of Donald Trump because Trump basically gave him the governorship because Trump came out in support of him because he saw DeSantis saw the winning hand, is like, oh, I'm going to support this guy. So Trump returned the favor. He won the primary and then won the election. And he's very ill prepared. He was ill prepared to be in this state legislature, let alone be the governor. But this guy is an absolute utter fool. I mean, there was a video months ago of him wearing a mask, and he didn't have the bottom of it tied. It was just hanging. It's like, dude.
What about him with him waving the finger? He loves to wave that finger.
Oh, yeah. In May, this fool was talking about reopening the schools. He wasn't just talking about it in May. He was talking about reopening the schools in May. He wanted to send the kids back for 2 weeks in May. His reasoning was studies have shown that no one under the age of 18 has died from the virus. Ugh. First problem, that wasn't true. Second problem, you can have the virus and not die, and you can give it to other people. He doesn't seem to understand the concept of infection. Still doesn't seem to understand it with his absolutely, he may be even more stupid than Trump and may be doing a worse job of it than Trump. And that's hard to believe considering how many deaths Trump has caused. But our lovely governor, just a few things. Our lovely governor does have someone who is in charge of this whole situation on the health. He's met with that person once in the month of July. Once. He has had several people who were on the front lines for the state leave those positions. One was dismissed. She was the person who was in charge of running the dashboard so people would know what's going on. And they wanted to change it to make the numbers look not as bad, and she wouldn't do it. So they fired her for insubordination. How dare you tell the truth?
Wow.
Another person who was, let me pull up his name. Oh, I did leave out the command center for the Department of Health was temporarily shut down because they had a series of infections, so they couldn't even open their own command center. Lovely. Oh. That was over in Tampa. Here we go. The person who was in charge of the response not only quit because DeSantis wouldn't listen to him, he moved out of the state.
Wow.
This is the equivalent of Dr. Fauci not only quitting his position but moving to Canada.
Yes.
It's like, okay, y'all won't listen to me. Fine, I'm giving up. I'm resigning my position because I don't want my reputation tarnished. Oh, and by the way, I can't even live in this state. I don't trust it. So he left this state.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's how wonderful a job DeSantis has done for Florida. He has absolutely turned this into a horror show. It's unbelievable.
I think it's safe to say an S show.
It is safe to say that. If I was on another network, I would say it.
Oh, my goodness. So,
or if I was in the halls of Congress, because we can say even worse things in the halls of Congress.
Oh, of course. Oh, it's like, how the mighty have fallen, how far, I don't know how much far lower we can actually go. This thing is painful. It's painful to watch.
It does seem to be bottomless. I mean, every time I used to think it's like, okay, we've reached the nadir. We're at it. And it's like, nah, there clearly is no bottom to this. Absolutely not. I mean, every week now Trump does something that almost anybody else would have been impeached for. Every single week. I mean, in 2 days he pulled $400,000 out of campaign funds, funneled it to his private companies.
And no one has a problem with this.
They don't even blink anymore.
No, it's just like, send it over there.
He's endorsing a certain Hispanic food company, but I'm not even going to name it. But I still see a lot of it on the shelves, thank God. I wanted to get some more coconut milk for my lovely virgin pina colada. And they were out of the two other brands that I would buy. They had at least 36 cans of this other brand. Guess who didn't buy any? Me, the same as everybody else who wasn't buying that crap.
Yeah.
It's free speech, absolutely. No one is stopping the CEO of that company from loving Donald Trump and burrowing into his anus. But we are also free not to buy your products.
It's true.
So
it's true.
But Mr. Trump and his administration members, not his family members, but she is a member of his administration, Miss Ivanka, they're not free to endorse products. It's against the law. And again, nothing happens. Unbelievable. As if that was his worst crime against humanity. It's like, hold my beer, fellas. It's coming next. Who knows what he's going to do next?
Oh, my goodness. Hey, this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. We're going to go to our first initial topic, Comic-Con at home.
Yes.
That's one thing. I hope before the book is finally written, I can get to a San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes. That would be a lovely
one
thing.
Right? That's one thing. Because I've gone to the New York Comic-Con several occasions. Doesn't have that pizzazz.
It's interesting. I wonder why. I mean, it doesn't seem to, because all of the media is always all about the one in San Diego.
Yeah. So it's like, in previous years, it's always at the Javits Center, which is not far from Madison Square Garden. Huge facility, beautiful facility. Just doesn't have that feeling, that San Diego has. Some things break, and some trailers break, and you have some celebrities there, but it's just the look and feel. And this year was so different, but I liked it. What I was able to view of it, and I said, "Oh, okay." They're making everything available. Of course, it's Zoom or it's StreamYard or it's Teams or whatever like that, but they're giving you a full hour sessions.
If anything good comes out of this pandemic, and of course, it's a pretty minor thing, but everyone can attend the panels now.
Yes.
Which is pretty damn cool. I mean, I love the fact that it's like, okay, now we're all there live. We're watching. It's like, I can't because I'm working during the time of most of those panels. But I mean, that is one thing that's awesome out of this is it's really opened the event up to even more people, which is pretty damn cool.
So we got 3 subtopics: The Walking Dead family, The Boys, the Snyder Cut, Justice League. I'll go in the order of importance for me. Snyder Cut, Justice League. How could a movie that went so bad? I mean, of course, the situation that happened to Zack Snyder and his wife was horrendous.
Yes, absolutely.
Which forced him to, leave the movie and then, for the movie itself to, I guess it was bastardized.
I hate some of the man's work. I don't hate the man.
Right.
Put it that way. I am very hopeful that this turns out to be a great movie. Why would I hope it's going to be garbage? That would be stupid. That would be self-defeating. I have reason to hope that it could be, because I think Watchmen is a great movie. A lot of people don't like Watchmen. It's the HBO series is a completely different animal and a hell of a lot better than the movie. But I think the movie was a really good adaptation. His Dawn of the Dead was great. I mean, he's done some really cool stuff. 300 might be kind of shallow, but for what it is, it's a great movie. But he's also done Sucker Punch. Which is terrible, which is a terrible damn movie. He also did Man of Steel, which isn't very good, frankly. And Batman v Superman. Here's the thing. I do not understand the clamor for the Snyder Cut, because did y'all see Batman v Superman? Did you miss Martha somehow? So I don't know how this expectation built for a guy who just served you a steaming pile of not good movie. That movie is atrocious compared to the expectation. We talked about this when it came out, and it's like, for some of us who are chronologically advantaged, we've been waiting for that movie for decades.
Yes.
decades.
Yes.
And that's what we got? Are you kidding me? So I understand him wanting to have his own cut. It makes sense because, like you said, it was taken away from him through no fault of his own. I'm fine with Warner spending the money, and it's a lot of money to put it together.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money because he had I'm sure you know, he had the 5-hour assembly cut. He had everything shot. But a lot of the special effects weren't done. That costs a lot of money. So now they're adding the special effects. That's going to take a lot of time. But if all we get out of it is we get to see Darkseid and we see Superman in a black suit, because that seems to be the hype so far, is like, are you kidding me? Maybe a Green
Lantern appearance.
Maybe a Green Lantern appearance. Maybe even a Martian Manhunter appearance, which would be like about freaking time. But you know, I'll be interested and I'll watch it. But if it weren't for the fact that I'm doing shows like this, I would not watch it. Just because I have no reasonable expectation for it to be of any quality whatsoever, considering what he has done in the DC universe so far. At best, to me, a mediocre movie at best, and a really bad movie. So why would I think he's going to do anything good this time?
I like the fact that of it going to HBO Max. I like that whole aspect. I love the whole, you know, if it would have went back to the theaters in what we'll actually get back in the movie theaters in what, 2022, 2023?
23.
23?
Anyway.
So I like the fact with using HBO Max as a vehicle to make it like a limited series.
I wonder if they're going to do that or if he's just going to do a 3-hour.
Yeah. So that's the big talk, and we got to wait until we hear from Zack Snyder is, do you make it 4 40-minute episodes, or do you make it, do you go the full 3-hour extravaganza? You know,
since it's on HBO Max, it would make much more sense to make it a limited miniseries like you're talking. Because then he can make it a 3-hour movie, but just like you said, Ted, break it up. You can have 6 little mini episodes, and it's like
release it and don't release it all together.
Right.
I'm a big fan of let's not release it all together. Let's release it week by week.
Right. I mean, that would be the way to do it, because we know the story, and obviously, it's changed quite a bit. We know his version is going to be drastically different. He made a comment because someone asked him if he would use any of Joss Whedon's footage, and he said something along the lines of, "I would set fire to it first," which don't blame him, because that's not his work, and obviously he doesn't like what the movie turned into.
Right.
So no issues there. I mean, it's his cut. Why should he use any of the footage that he didn't film? That wouldn't make any sense. But I would love a miniseries of it.
I will tell you this much. I don't hold it against Joss Whedon how it turned out. I really don't. Because I think of Joss Whedon kind of similar to Ron Howard stepping in there for Solo.
Right.
Well, hey, here's this huge franchise. I'm going to give it to you, and it's half put together. Now you figure out the rest. It's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, and Solo was a mistake. If it wasn't called Solo, if it was some other bounty hunter, smuggler, whatever, would have been a better movie. Just make the character different. It's like, dude, you're not going to be Harrison Ford. I'm so sorry for whoever you are. It ain't going to work.
Yeah.
And same thing with this. Yeah, I mean, he walked into a thing that was like 70% done.
Yes.
And then changed some up. But I mean, still, it wasn't his project.
No.
And despite that, it was still better than Batman v Superman.
I will hold fast, Todd, and I would say watch the Ultimate Edition of B versus S.
I have.
35 minutes. Oh, you have?
I have.
Okay.
I don't like it any better. It makes more sense, but I don't like it any better.
It does make more sense.
It does.
It does make more sense. But you still have that scene with Martha.
You still have Martha. you still have the fact that Superman can't find his mom. He can find Lois on the other side of the world in the same movie, but he can't find his mom in the town across the river. It's like, come on.
Insane.
There were just so many awful, terrible plot inconsistencies in that movie. And Martha is like, oh yeah. Thank God Adolf Hitler's mom didn't have the same name as Roosevelt's, because holy crap. And it was like, we'd all be speaking German now because Roosevelt.
Oh my goodness.
Your mom's the same name as mine. We're friends. Like,
why'd you say that name? Why'd you I kind of feel like, truthfully, if they let Ben Affleck do his Batman movie and release it on HBO Max, just release the movie, send it straight to HBO Max, I think it would make so many fans happy.
I thought Affleck did an excellent job as an older Batman.
Yes.
That being said, the word that Michael Keaton might be stepping back into the role for the Flash movie makes me really happy.
Really happy.
I mean, I know Jeffrey Dean Morgan had his heart set on being Thomas Wayne, and he still might be in the movie as another Batman because parallel universes and all this other stuff.
Yes.
I think he would be fine. That'd be cool. But Michael Keaton? Oh my God.
Michael Keaton?
Yes, please.
That's canon. That's continuity. That's when you can say, wait, I remember in 1989. Remember in 1989 going to go to the movies to see Michael Keaton play Batman.
That's a smart move. I remember seeing that logo, which when I first saw it looked like gold teeth because I didn't see the reverse image. Everywhere. That merchandise was everywhere.
Yes.
Oh my God. It was just, that thing had so much. I was going to say hype, but it wasn't hype. It was just a groundswell of support and popularity.
Yes.
Insane.
Yes.
Absolutely insane.
It's so funny when we look back 30 years ago and a movie could make $300 million, but its merch could make double of that. And they're like, it's a total success.
That was just from one Hot Topic alone. It's just nothing but Batman shirts.
Let me check. I'm checking to see if this is Lee.
You better get that call.
No, it's not Lee. It says it's spam, but it had Lee's area code. But, I don't know.
That's Lee. That's a side hustle.
Did you get a chance to see season 1 of The Boys?
I did indeed.
Did you love it, or were you just kind of like, about time Amazon, or like, what were your thoughts?
I loved it. I thought it was brilliant.
And
Mr. Urban, I almost called him Keith. That would be the other Urban. Oh, Carl Urban is like, okay, what can't this guy do?
Yes.
Holy cow. When I think of how letter perfect his performance as Bones McCoy is,
he nailed Bones.
He's better in the role than the original actor. How is that possible?
DeForest Kelly.
How is that possible? He out DeForest Kelly.
Better than DeForest Kelly. You know, I mean, come on.
Good. And then he turns around and plays this role.
Yes.
And Boys is like, God. I thought The Boys it's a great premise. Of course, it's based on graphic novels, which is a cool premise. Is like the superheroes. Oh, they're not so superheroic after all. They're kind of not good people. And the people who appear to be the scumbags, they're really the good people who are fighting.
They're really the good people. You're just like, huh?
Yeah. And he doesn't really play fair. And it's hardly a spoiler for people who haven't seen the show. Because if you haven't seen the show, like, get with the stick. But it's in the trailer of holding the baby and weaponizing the baby.
Yes.
There's so many brilliant bits in The Boys, but it's a fascinating premise. I think it's a really well done plot. Takes some really cool twists and turns that you don't expect. Elizabeth Shue still looks pretty good these days.
Yeah, she does.
And aside from that, she's great. in that role. She's excellent.
Yeah, I wanted to see. I was hoping she was going. I mean, spoiler alert. I was hoping that she was going to survive.
What? She doesn't? I don't think that's true. It's a comic book series. She might survive. I mean, that's how
she might survive. It's true.
But yeah,
back as a clone.
The acting is really, really good. I mean, the characters, the characters are really well drawn. I love the fact that Urban, his character is such a. There are reasons that his character is not such a nice person.
Yes.
But wow, he's just such an SOB, and he's the antagonist. He's the guy you're rooting for, which is great.
Yes,
which is great.
Amazon nailed it with that one. They
really
nailed it. And the premise for season 2, they're going to release the first 3 episodes, and then the slow burn. The next, the following 5 weeks, you'll see episodes, 4 through 8.
Which, and I'd agree with you about staggering the episodes, just making them more episodic. I mean, I do like to binge. It's like, spend the weekend, watch all of it.
Right.
But it doesn't really give it time for the expectation to build. To me, it is a better experience to wait a week, see the next one. Because then when you rewatch it, if it's any good, you're going to rewatch it. You can rewatch it all in one slam afterwards. Spend a few months later, it's like, I'm going to watch all 10 episodes. I'm going to fry my brain.
Right.
I do like the fact that they're going to do that again. I love the fact that they've already greenlit season 3.
Yes, that's great.
Without even the response to season 2 coming out, it's like
season 3, boom, and you're just like,
we know we got
really
this. Great. I wish Netflix would hang on to some more of their series for a little longer. It's so odd. So odd. It's like I get why they canned I think it's stupid, but I understand why they canned their Marvel universe, because I'm sure they felt like, why should we promote Disney's properties? It's like, yeah. Why should you want to have, 15, 35 million viewers too? It's like, dude, you think we wouldn't still be watching Daredevil? Are you crazy?
Of course we would. We loved Daredevil. I loved Luke Cage. The only one I didn't, only 2. Defenders is okay. I think it just maybe needed another season to develop. But, and I'm sure it's the same with anybody who saw all of them. They needed to rework Iron Fist. It's like, whoa. The second season got a little bit better.
It did get better. The supporting characters were really good.
Yes.
The only issue was the actor, and I think he's a good actor. It's just an issue of how the character was written. Yes. It's kind of hard to root for this whiny rich boy, which is basically how he was written.
Right.
Like, come on, be more like Billy Butcher. Have some guts.
Oh. I will tell you this. It's not on the docket. I will say I'm a little upset that Ozark is ending at season 4.
Yeah.
Even though they're going to give us a supersized season, I'm kind of like, why?
Right. That's one of those. Which again, like I said, I can see why they cut the Marvel things short, kind of. But Ozark, dead to me, is like, well, what are you thinking?
Right.
I mean, these are immensely good creative shows that people are watching. It's like, and I know Daredevil, they released a little bit of numbers. They're so secretive about it. And the ratings had dropped season by season for Daredevil.
Okay.
But were you not getting any viewers at all? You're like, come on. It's not like it bottomed out. Nah. And I can't believe that the numbers have fallen off that drastically for Ozark or Dead to Me. I mean, shows that can't be that expensive to film. It's not like the Marvel properties.
Right. There's no special effects.
Right.
There's no VFX. There's none of that.
So that's a shame.
I guess we'll go to the Walking Dead family.
Let's hit it.
Overall, you got that remaining episode from season 10.
Yep.
You kind of wonder about the VFX. Like, we always talk about post-production because I just wanted to let you know, in pre-pro, we didn't get a chance.
There was no pre-pro.
In pre-pro, we were talking about no, there was no pre-pro. I just want to let you know, every time I do a show with Rich, I always make sure to mention the word pre-pro, and we think of nothing more than Todd Vandenberg.
Oh, we always mention pre-pro, and we always mention Mr. Fabulous himself because it's all about the pre-pro.
Oh my goodness! So Walking Dead. I would say probably about season 7, season 8 got a little bit long in the teeth. Started getting a little bit long in the tooth. Or is it in the teeth? But Angela Kang, with her being the showrunner, totally breathed life into. I think you get to a point where you have XYZ material that the show is running off of, and then you get to that point where you burn through all of it. Now what? You have a clean slate. Exactly. And I think that's great.
I'll have to be honest, as I have not seen any of season 10. So I've got some catch up to do, but I have plenty of time to do because we got till October, 4th, I think, for the finale of season 10, right?
Season 10 is great.
Which is what I've heard, what I gathered from watching the panel, because I watched the panel. I did some pre-pro work because I watched the panel for this. And it looks really, really interesting. I knew they were bringing back a beloved character, one of the beloved characters one of the few they hadn't killed off. So Maggie's back. Yes. Yay. Honestly, I lost quite a bit of interest when another primary character, I'll just say Glenn. When Glenn got off, I lost a lot of interest.
Okay.
When another character, like the primary character, when he left the show, I lost even more interest. So for me, it was kind of like a double whammy. And it was still a good show. It just wasn't as good in my eyes, but I'll jump back in because I am looking forward to seeing how they wrap up season 10. I never got into Fear the Walking Dead. I watched like the first 4 or 5 episodes, just could not. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just that it didn't really capture my imagination as much. And it's not like the old days when I was growing up and we couldn't even get ABC on the air. There's a lot to watch now, and there's just limited time for all that. So I probably won't ever hit that, but I definitely will be looking at The World Beyond because that sounds like a great concept.
And limited series, 2 seasons, 20 eps. I love that. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end.
Yep, I think that's it. I think that's awesome. They guarantee you that. Well, they can't guarantee you they won't run out of steam because they might run out of steam by episode 2. We don't know. Right. But they're locked in. They're telling a story. They know exactly where they're going with it. I think that alone is great. I think the premise is great. They're looking at 10 years after everything started. So they're following characters who, for the most part, didn't know anything other than this. Yes. The 2 of the stars, I believe they're supposed to be 14-year-old girls, 15 maybe. Yep. And then there are other characters that come in too, and they're on a journey. And some of it's kind of like, it's the trope. Oh, we got the bright kid. We've got the loner with a mysterious past. It's like, yeah, okay, they have some of those tropes, but they can be done really well anyway. Listening to I can't think of his name now, Greg Nicotero. Listening to him and listening to some of the cast members for the Beyond show, it sounds like they've got a really good premise. They've got a really good handle on how these characters are going to play out. It doesn't seem quite as cliche as it might otherwise. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think the most attractive thing about it to me is, like you said, 20 shows, we're done. We're done. Here's potentially, and we'll go back to this episode 2 years from now, Todd. Episode 20, you'll see how they've led you with the breadcrumbs along the way to find Rick Grimes. Because somewhere down the line, Rick Grimes is going to, I think that's the bridge to get us to Rick Grimes. To the movies, which, of course, the movies have all been delayed because of production. But the Beyond show, at least, is the first season's totally done. It's ready to go. They could
It's
start
done.
airing tonight. So a little bit of good news again. It's like, well, we know we got some entertainment coming. So, and it's going to be the lead out from the season finale of Walking Dead. Then they'll show the season premiere of The World Beyond. And then we will have our friend, the Talking Dead, back again to talk about all the shows. So, kind of cool to see him back on talking about the dead universe. So
I remember you, myself, Lee, we were talking about that.
yeah.
And remember when Me Too hit and he got wrapped into that, and I was just like, well, and we were kind of like, and I just want to lead into this to say, yes, we do believe women. Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
But it's something that they ran the investigation
in the media. They ran the investigation in the media over the course of one day, and he was out of a job.
He was out of a job.
You know, that's what we were talking. I remember that very clearly. That's what we were talking about. It's like this is the one Chris in entertainment who can't work. It's like, come on now,
Right.
He can't help that he's not 6'4" and has muscles coming out of his ears. It's like, let this Chris live. It's like, what are you doing? But yeah, it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction. And like he said, and like we said then, is like the vast majority of women who are coming forward are absolutely telling the truth. I have no doubt of that, because I know too many women who've gone through horror shows in their personal lives, which far more than I should, far more than should ever happen. But not every single instance of this is true, and he was caught up in one of those instances. So
yeah,
if they had just taken like literally 2 weeks to figure out what was going on, wouldn't have been an issue. But unfortunately, they didn't. But he's back now, so
he's back. It's going to be. Don't get me wrong. I love these shows. I love watching AMC, but I love Talking Dead.
It's. I know there are a lot of other shows out there like now, but to me, it's still he does an excellent job of steering the conversation. I mean, we saw that in the panels.
Yes.
And he does a great job of steering the conversations, of following new threads. A lot of people can't do that. They go with a script, as Lee mentioned in a show which will be airing soon, but we actually recorded it yesterday. Oh. We're going to follow the script. It's like, we're the 49ers. Here's our first 25 questions. It's like, well, we're not going to veer from this. This is So, and too many interviews that's exactly what they are. And it's like, you've got to follow the threads that come up, and he's a master at that. And he makes sure everybody participates. I mean, he's great. He does a terrific job. I wish he could get, I wish he could get press credentials to the White House. I would love to hear what he would ask.
Oh my goodness. The missus has made about three appearances.
She's a superstar.
She's just like, yeah, I'm just coming in here. Let me just grab whatever I need to grab, and that's that. I'm like,
every great show has a cameo, man. Every great show.
Oh my goodness. Our second topic, which we won't require any commentary. I'm just going to flash it across the screen.
Woo. Yeah.
I don't know what in the world is happening to my childhood heroes. I don't know.
Trump was your childhood hero? That's interesting. That explains Fox and Friends. Right.
Childhood athletic heroes.
Yes.
Oh my God. I'll just leave it there. I'm not even touching it. Unless you want to, if you want to expound on it.
Well, we got 145,000 dead. Let's go golfing, buddies. Yeah.
What is wrong with this world? I'm going next. So Mr. Vandenberg, this is Late Night Parents. We're talking with Todd Vandenberg. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. Sports have returned. Your favorite hosts are calling action off their screens.
That's true. You are.
Yes. No one's physically there. They're doing like what we're doing. If we were watching sports, I have the TV on in my house. You have it on in your home. We're geographically 1,200 miles away. Of course, it's not going to be continuity there.
Yeah, it's going to be a little out of sync. I'm kind of surprised that the announcers aren't traveling, and I understand it would be more than an announcer. You need like a crew to help set up. I'm kind of surprised about that. I'm not blaming them for it. I'm just kind of surprised they didn't. I mean, the teams are doing it. You would think they would send like 3 people, but it's hardly the end of the world. I mean, we're getting sports. Some of the changes baseball has made for the shortened season, interesting changes like extra innings. Oh, we're going to start out with a guy in second. Like,
I don't like that.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
I really doubt. I really doubt we're going to see that next season. Because for right now, it's just this season. But
okay.
But they could. I
thought it was this season and next season.
As far as I read, it's just this season.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
They could always change it anyway. I mean, it's their game; they can do whatever they want. So
right.
But yeah, Mr. Clevenger of the Cleveland Indians took exception to this, which he's right. I mean, he says like. His comment was, you know how hard it is to get a guy in second against the back of a bullpen in the major leagues? I mean, that's almost impossible. And you're just giving it to him? Yes. And one of his former teammates said, is like, well, it is the same for both teams, which is true. It is the same for both teams. I mean, it's not like the visitors get the guy in second and then the home team comes up and they don't have anybody. But still, it changes the game drastically. And Clevenger's response was great. It's like, oh, yeah, I can understand why you'd love a game full of sack bunts and sacrifice flies. That's more your style. It's like, that's harsh, bro. Especially since he played with him last year. It's like, what the heck? But, yeah, I don't like it at all. I mean, that's just part of baseball. It's extra innings. And I can kind of understand why, okay, we want to limit the length of the games because of the COVID situation. I still don't like it. But
no.
That aspect of it is like, okay, I kind of get it, but it's too big of a change. It's just bad. I don't like it at all. And I know it's similar to football. It's like you're in overtime. You'll start at 25. You get, I get that. I see the analogy. I don't care. Football can do whatever it wants. I mean, football is a different sport. Baseball has, my God, what are we up to? 180 years of.
Yes. Not
a major league baseball, but 180 years of tradition is like, no, let's not put a guy in second to start the 10th inning. Don't like it.
Thumbs up for universal DH or thumbs down?
Thumbs down. I used to like the thought of the universal DH, but I've changed my mind since then. So free world, I get to do that. And people say, yeah, it gives more jobs. It doesn't give more jobs. It's just, it's just, it changes the roster. You're letting an older player who can't field well anymore stick around. Right. And there's something to be said for that. But in the same place, you're also taking away a roster spot from a 21-year-old who can field really well, but hasn't learned to hit the slider yet. I mean, Either way, I love the fact that they have different rules. I love the fact that it's the same sport, but there's a one major difference in the rules between the American League and the National League. And I would much rather them keep the DH in the American League, go make the pitcher hit in the National League. Nothing is cooler other than a triple, which is still like my favorite play. But nothing is cooler than seeing a pitcher take the opposition downtown. And granted, it doesn't happen very often. And yeah, I know most pitchers go up there and they foul a couple off and then strike out and they look like fools. I don't care. It's worth seeing that happen 10 times compared to seeing a guy like Verlander crack one, or, back in the day, and I blanked out on his name, Cubs, Braves, who was a pretty good hitter too. All the Braves pitchers actually were pretty good hitters.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm sorry, Bartolo Colon. How did you not mention him?
Oh, big sexy.
There's that's an awesome moment in the game, and you lose that if you put it in a DH.
It's all gone.
It's gone. So I'd much rather. I do not want to see a universal DH. It makes this strategy difficult when you have interleague games. It really has an impact on the World Series. If one of your best hitters is the DH, and one of your best hitters better be the DH, because otherwise, what the hell are you doing with your roster? Right. And now you have to figure out, how do I get this guy into the game? How can I work around that situation? And the National League team has to figure out, how do we get another bat in the lineup? It impacts the strategy of the postseason so much. It's like, I don't want to see that.
The only thing I will say for that specific topic, it allows the Brian Cashmans of the world and all these GMs that are like, hey, I'm smarter than you, and I'm going to grab any person to be the manager of my team, because nowadays, everything is sabermetrics, everything is numbers, everything is computer generated, and now I'm just going to put whomever in the manager because you got a DH. You don't have to think about those type of situations. That's what Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because we're old. We like going to National League ballparks and sitting there and watching managers actually manage.
Well, but when you have a DH, it does make it a little more difficult to figure out when to take the pitcher out, because without a DH, it's like, okay, 7th inning, we're one behind. That pitcher's coming out. Right. He has to. So that's kind of an automatic decision. But if you're a run behind, but it's a 2-1 ball game, I don't know. Do I take the pitcher out? It's like, do I really need to? So it's not like the strategy completely disappears, but it is easier for sure. And it's just, to me, it's just a much better game, really having both. Why take away from that? I don't like the fact that I'm not even sure why they did it for this season. I don't see how that impacts anything.
What's your thoughts on VFX, CGI, special effects?
In baseball?
Audio.
Oh, my God. That ball went 700 miles. That's incredible.
Oh, my goodness. You can see how the fans are just layered in there, and I'm like, oh, my goodness.
No. Just leave the stadium empty. Just pretend it's a Marlins game. It's like, we're used to it down here. They did have some interesting comments. I watched a little bit of the Red Sox Orioles game because it was on, and they did have some interesting commentary about how it affects players when there's not a crowd, because it does get you kind of amped up, whether you're at home because they're cheering for you or whether you're on the road because they're booing you. Either way, it has an effect on you. But then, and I can't recall who was doing the broadcast as a former pitcher, and he said, but when you're on the mound, it's like, I don't hear the crowd. It's like, I'm focused, which, is the case. You hear that from any pro athlete in front of a big crowd. When those big moments come up, they don't hear the crowd.
Right.
It's completely shut out. But I have noticed that one thing without the crowd noise, it's really cool when the bat hits the ball. It's like when they hit it right, it's like, wow, you can really hear that crack. It's like watching UFC. It's like you can hear it, and you can hear the fighters talking to each other.
Everything, which is hilarious. I'm sure you were watching the fight, and I can't remember the fighter, but it was after the first round, and Downey Cormier's doing color commentary. He's great. Yeah, you're right. And he was saying, I don't know why he doesn't do that. I don't know why he does that. And the guy says, yeah, man, thanks. I'll do that. It's like, he's unintentionally hitting the fighter. And he won his match. And he's like, yeah, I heard DC. DC said I should do X, Y, and Z.
And DC starts laughing because like, man, I gotta be quiet, but I don't know how to call this fight. This is awesome.
Oh my goodness. It's baseball is one thing. I love UFC. I don't know when are we going to see a boxing match?
I don't know. I'm not sure when we're going to see a tennis match, which is kind of, and it's kind of odd because where I live, there's a group that comes out every Sunday morning. They're all playing tennis, which is, you don't have to come within, if you're within 6 feet each other playing tennis, something's probably wrong anyway.
Right.
So I'm not sure why they haven't had tennis start up again. Obviously, without the crowds, it simply could be because they depend more on the gate than I thought they would.
Okay.
They had Djokovic had organized a exhibition, but unfortunately, instead of keeping distance, they all got together and they buddied up and stuff. And it's like, oh, guess it came down with coronavirus. It's like, dude, it's like you could have done this and been smart, but no, you decided to think masks were a hoax. Apparently, he's also an anti-vaxxer, which you seem to be a really smart dude. Clearly, there have been gaps in your education, sir.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And he came out and he apologized and it's like, yeah, maybe you should have just been smart to begin with. It's like tennis is, on the list of risk factors of activities on a scale of 10 to 1, tennis is 1. So how can you screw that up? And you managed to do that. It's like, my God. Yeah. So boxing, I don't know. Same thing as UFC. I mean, obviously the fighters are at some risk because they do come closer than
very close to each other.
Yeah. They come within, I don't know, a micron or two of each other a lot. And they're not wearing masks. But, I mean, of course, they're tested. They've done a really good job of testing everybody constantly. I mean, there have been several fights that have been called off because, he's positive, tagged, gone, isolated. So there's not been any kind of outbreak throughout the UFC roster because they've done a really good job. They've been responsible. Despite the fact that Dana White is a Trump supporter, he doesn't appear to listen to Trump in some of these things. It's like he's very... I mean, if he was really conscious of the safeties, they wouldn't be fighting. I get that. But I don't know how they could be doing it better than what they're doing. I mean, they're doing a really good job with that.
I think my final question to you, Todd, is would you be shocked if this NFL season you saw fans in the venue?
Yes. The reason I paused was I was thinking like maybe in January, but I don't think we would even see fans in the venue by then. I don't know if they were the first team to do it, but the first team that I read about is the Ravens changed their season ticket holders for 2020 to the 2021 season. So no refund,
I saw that.
We're just moving it, which is sensible, is right. They don't want to give up that revenue. And I honestly can't think of anyone who has a season ticket who would be mad that, it's not going to come. It's like, you're not going to show up anyway this season.
No, you're not.
And would you rather lose your season ticket or would you just rather have it transferred? Of course, I would much rather have it transferred. Yeah, I don't. And we talked about this a little bit. Maybe, actually, I think we talked about it on the show you were on with us. Where I could possibly see the high rollers. They're gonna let people come in. Yeah, which that's pretty much who gets to go anyways. God, I can't even afford the parking at an NFL game now, let alone the ticket and the seat licenses and everything in is. Maybe they would let them come in groups and maximum 25% capacity. Right. But even that, because still, I think no attendance would be better than 25% attendance. It just doesn't seem like that would be. You're not going to generate the kind of crowd noise that you would want. It would be like a Miami Hurricanes game. Right. Because their crowds have been a little bit better lately, but still, I mean, it's just not very well attended. And I don't really see where the cost for the security and all the rest of it and the cost of staging it would be worth it to them to get that added revenue from, a 25% gate, even if it's just the high rollers. So I can see them doing that because the NFL is all about money, if nothing else. But I don't think they would even go that route. Now, when the postseason comes along, then maybe they would do that. And maybe a miracle will happen and people start acting responsibly. I mean, if we all just locked down for 3 weeks, this would be done. Yes. And that's the crime of this is that if people were willing to make a sacrifice, like everybody sacrifice for everybody else, this would be over. But people won't do it. We did a shutter in place in New York, and you went to the store. Of course,
And the only thing I will say that wasn't Cuomo friendly was you go to the grocery store, you'll go to the gas station, and you can go to the pharmacy, and of course the liquor store.
Of course. But, if you set up a lockdown and you tell people it's coming, you got 2 weeks. Get everything.
Yes. Get everything.
And if something arises and you need it, it's going to be delivered. We're going to create a fund to make sure it gets delivered. It's like we're going to double the money to the post office instead of trying to shut it down because we don't like mail-in ballots, even though we use mail-in ballots ourselves. Thank you, Mr. President.
Right.
And we're going to make sure we have deliveries for everything. You ain't going anywhere. None of you are going anywhere. And we're going to have a few people, and they're going to be working deliveries. And a few people, of course, would be probably a few million. But I don't know, what's the National Guard for? It's like, this can be done. And there's just no political will to stand up and say, this is what's right. I mean, this moron is out there saying, is like, oh, look, it's patriotic to wear a mask. It's like, after 145, we're closing in on 150,000 deaths. Actually, by the end of the day, we'll be at 150,000 deaths. Right. So he waits until then to be Mr. Super Patriot.
The one thing I will say in favor of my governor is not only does he have task force driving around ticketing bars and ticketing restaurants, and if you're over that capacity, you should get ticketed.
Yeah.
Because when that spread starts again, and I mean, you saw it on TV, you saw it on the internet, and you saw it on Twitter. It was catastrophic up here. Yeah, so the fact that you're not adhering to the rules, then I mean, I think right now they're handing out $10,000 fines.
Wow.
And they should.
They should.
Yeah,
the thing is, millions of people are not taking this seriously, and they say, "Oh, it's a hoax," and hardly anybody, and it's the flu. It's like, okay. So for one thing, and I was doing the same thing. I was looking at the death rate, but the problem with looking at the death rate that we usually see published is we're taking total cases and using that as the base for the death rate, deaths by. Right. You can't take the total cases; they haven't resolved yet. Right. You can only take the cases that have resolved. Right now, it's 7%. 7% of cases in the United States that have run their course, 7% of those people are dead. Line up 100 of your Facebook friends. Tell me which 7 you want dead. That's what's going on.
Wow.
If we go to the point, or the meme of, you've seen the jelly beans. It's like, if I told you 2% of the jelly beans will kill you, are you going to bite a jelly bean? Of course not. But it's not 2%. No. It's 7%.
7%.
And new data is out suggesting by antibody tests that there may be 10 times as many cases as what have been confirmed. Okay. So, which is a good thing, because that means obviously there's probably more deaths than have been confirmed, but let's assume the deaths have stayed stable, and there are really 10 times as many cases. Well, that means it's not as lethal as we thought. That's a good thing.
Right.
That cuts the mortality down to 0.7%. That's a hell of a lot better than 7%. Here's the issue. People compare to the Spanish flu. The moron president blasted Biden for the terrible job they did with H1. He said swine flu because he can't say H1N1. Mm-hmm. The death rate from swine flu was 0.02%. Not 2%, not 0.2%, 0.02%. If the death rate from COVID-19 is 0.7%, best case scenario by far, because right now it looks like it's 7. If it's 0.7%, that's still 35 times higher than swine flu. This is not just the flu. This is a life and death situation for 150,000 people so far, and people don't take it seriously. It is going to get into the millions. And it's a tragedy. The tragedy is that we have a person who signs executive orders to stop people from toppling statues, but he says, oh, I can't do anything about the virus. That's up to the states. Really, dude? Anything interests you, you're more than happy to sign an executive order. But when you're playing to your base, nope. I need to hold on to my base at all costs. And until finally he wears a mask. That is the tragedy.
Oh my goodness. Todd.
That and a guy in second base in the 10th inning. That's also a tragedy.
Todd, I want to thank you for jumping on today just to chew through a couple of topics. As always, you are as thorough as I can remember.
Oh, it feels like it's running through my gut right now. I may be thorough. Always a fantastic pleasure to be with Mr. Fabulous himself. Always.
Just that the pack of Fig Newtons that you're going to have for snack.
The double pack.
Just think of me. Hey, what's the best way to find your work, follow you? I know you do a plethora of...
It feels like COVID-19.com, but that would be a lie. CinemaSavants.com for movie reviews, and the Nikki X Happy Hour Podcast.com now for the Nikki X Show. And per your suggestion, I guess I'll start tweeting again. So that would be the Unreal Todd on Twitter. And maybe I'll have a surprise in about a month, and I'll let you know about that in post, bro.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. So this is Late Night Parents. This is Ted Hicks. We're out.